Welcome to my home kitchen, and this is Perfectly Paired with Chef Jim May from Papa Pietro Perri Winery. And today we're going to do a traditional rice dish from Italy, but we're going to tweak it and make it work with the wine using a lot of the different ingredients to make it perfectly paired. And it's going to be one that's going to go with both a white and a red. So if you have a preference, you can use one or the other, and if you'd rather do both, you can do both. Well, the first step we're going to do is roast the mushrooms. I am using three different kinds: the trumpet royale, shiitake, and cremini, which are the brown white button mushrooms. You can use whatever you want, whatever combination. You can use the white button, but you're going to take them and slice them, and you're going to put them in a 425 degree oven for probably about 35 minutes. But you're going to just slice them. You're thinking they're going to shrink by about 25 to 30% easy. So you cut them into little pieces like this. These are actually local grown in Sebastopol, a place called Gourmet Mushrooms. And you will put them on a tray. I always put foil on them, but you put them on a tray. This is about a third of what you would normally have. I've already pre-roasted some of them. You toss it with olive oil, a good couple tablespoons of olive oil, some salt, a little pepper, and toss it together. And that goes in an oven, like I said, at 425 for 30 to 35 minutes. And you start that first because it's going to take the longest. The next thing we're going to use on our recipe, traditionally risotto is stock, onion, rice, and cheese. This, we're going to add a few more ingredients to make it perfectly paired with our wine. And we're going to be, like I said, we have a 2019 Chardonnay and one of the new releases to the wine club, the 2019 Pommard. Both of them go really well with it. We have fennel and we have leeks, and this is real springtime ingredients. You take the leeks, cut off the green part, cut it in half, and then you just slice it about 1/2 inch thick. Now after this is sliced, I put it in a bowl of water to make sure you get all the grit out of it. That is it's called the sofrito. We're going to saute that till soft, and then the fennel, which has a very distinct licorice taste, and that loses that licoriceness or most of the strength of it as you cook it slow. But you take this, cut it into, again, small pieces. It's going to look like celery, but it's going to have this beautiful aroma. And this goes into a pan of olive oil and butter. It's going to cook for 10 to 15 minutes, just slow cooked until soft. We have the fennel and we have the leeks ready to saute. We have a little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to put this in here and cook it, toss it a little bit, cook it till it's soft. It's going to be 7 to 10 minutes. And that'll give us a base for our combination to go with the wine. So while the fennel and the leeks cook, I'm going to prep the next step. And one of the local purveyors of meats that we're going to be partnering with later this month is going to be Journeyman, and it's run by Pete and Kathy Segesio of the Segesio Winery. His family's from Italy, and they were butchers and salami producers back in the 18th century. So they make wonderful products. The one I'm doing, they make an assortment of them. This is a Parmesan and porcini mushroom, which is going to bridge the flavors to go with both wines, because the red wine has that earthy, mushroomy, deep fruit flavors, and I'm going to take some of this, and it's beautiful sausage, great fat content. It's all done in-house in Healdsburg, California, and I'm just going to take little discs of it, cut it into quarters, and we're going to, when we add the rice to coat it, we're going to add this to and to release the flavors of the mushrooms and the Parmesan cheese. Both of these have what they call umami. It's that fifth sense of flavor. So I am using Journeyman. They're great partners with us, and their meats are delicious. If you want to learn more about them, last month we had them as guests talking about their history and their products, and they are good people and good local product. You can check it out on Facebook, on our website, or on YouTube. So the risotto that I'm making is out of, it's an arborio rice. Any short grain or medium grain Italian rice will usually do. You don't do balsamic or basmati, and you don't do jasmine. You do a short grain rice. It was brought over by the Arabs in the 14th century to Spain and to Italy because it was ideal growing conditions. And both of them did their own thing with the product. And the Italians liked it because when you stir it, rather than just adding water, it rubs against the grains and it releases starch. And the starch turns into a creamy, velvety sauce, but you have to maintain it. It's not something you just put a lid on it and then walk away. So it's going to be a 20-25 minute cooking time total, but the results will be so worth it. So the rice that I am using, it is Italian rice. It is a short grain, fat, plump rice with a lot of starch. You don't rinse it off. You don't add a lot of water at first. What you are going to do is coat it with the butter and oil that's in the pan right now, along with the salami, and then we start adding stock. And that'll go about a half cup at a time, and you constantly stir it until it is absorbed. If you want to stop it and put it aside, you can do it after 15 minutes. But otherwise, you will just continue to cook it and serve it immediately. In restaurants, they'll cook it for 15 minutes, and then at the end, they'll add more stock, more flavorings, and cook it another 10 minutes. So if you order it in a restaurant, it's not going to take you a half hour as a rule. It'll take like 10 minutes for them to finish it off. Once the vegetables, the sofrito, is softened up, it's still got lots of oil and butter, I'm going to add the porcini and Parmesan salami, which will cook down a little bit and coat, and it'll release some of its flavor. And then I'm going to add the risotto, or the rice. And this is going to, by cooking it a little bit, it's going to keep the texture. It won't get mushy when it's actually cooked. It'll just stay, it'll be soft on the outside and firm on the inside, which is what you want. So we'll give this a little bit of stir. Take a minute or two to coat it. And while that's going on, I'll talk a little bit about the wine that we're going to feature with this. It's one of our richer single clone wines. It is a Pommard clone, primarily from our Peters Vineyard and from our Laris Vineyard. It's one of my very favorite. It is good when it's young, good when it's aged. This 19 is actually soft and luscious right now. The Wine Club is the one that's got it. Our 18 is available at the tasting room if you're not in the club, and that has an extra year and a little bit more complexity. This is just velvet in a glass. It's a beautiful wine. If you go to the last episode of Wine and Whatever Wednesday with Kristen, it's on YouTube and Facebook. She was featured this wine as well, as along with the Russian River, which is two wines that will actually go really well with this dish, as well as the Chardonnay. If you happen to be a white wine drinker or have a guest that's a white wine drinker, this is going to be an experience that will go with both wines. The vegetables are softened and the rice is coated, as well as the salami. I'm going to add a little bit of our Chardonnay. We only make one, and it's wonderful to cook with as well as to drink with. And I'm going to put in about a half a cup. A little more doesn't hurt. And that's going to be stirred, and it's going to be absorbed into the rice. It gives a little acid and a little flavor, and we're going to do that before we start adding our broth. So as we cook the stock and the rice, stirring occasionally, I'm going to be adding, after about 10-15 minutes, I'm going to add some lemon zest, some lemon juice, some dried thyme, and then as is absorbed, I'm going to add a half the parsley, and towards the very end I'm going to add some pecorino cheese and some Parmesan cheese. Parmesan is cow's milk, pecorino is going to be sheep milk. In fact, it's called Pecorino Romano. It means sheep milk from Rome. So as all the Chardonnay has been absorbed, that half a cup of the Chardonnay, and we're going to start adding broth half cup at a time. You can use, I happen to be using chicken stock, you can use vegetable broth, you can use mushroom broth, but you're just going to add it and stir it as it goes in. So that was about a quarter cup. Here's another quarter cup. Now what makes it creamy and saucy is the friction of the grains against each other. And so that, as each ladle is put in, you stir and then keep adding over the next 15 to 25 minutes to make it creamy. It doesn't have to be constant, but this happens to be what's called a risotto spoon. You don't have to have this, a wood spoon is fine, but this allows the rice to go through it, and it makes it creamier as you do it. But this was not necessarily a thing, but it's fun to use once in a great while. So you can see that there's liquid at the bottom. We're going to stir that a little bit, let it absorb, and before it dries out, we're going to keep adding more stock. You'll see as it develops, it gets creamier and creamier. So you can see that it's getting creamier and creamier. It's got about another 5-6 minutes to go. I'm going to add the lemon juice, which gives it this brightness, and the lemon zest. A little bit of dried thyme, just that little herbaceousness that goes along with the wine. And this will absorb into the rice kernels along with the flavor of the stock. And the last few minutes, which is still a few minutes away, I'm going to keep, you can see how it's getting a creamy consistency. The starch is thickening it up. And the last few minutes I'm going to add parsley, half the cheese, and then I have the mushrooms. So the last finishing touches will be our roasted mushrooms, which are going to be crispy and chewy, and again has that mix, goes along with the porcini, or the sausage. It goes along with the flavors of the wine, and it makes a pretty little presentation. Kind of changes it up to a perfectly paired combination of risotto. So this is pretty much done. It's been about 20-22 minutes. It's creamy. There's a little bit of stock left over if you need it, but I'm going to add a 10-ounce package of frozen peas. They're still frozen, and this brings in that springtime element again. They will defrost in a matter of minutes or two. You don't want to overcook them too long because they will lose that nice bright greenness that they have. I'm going to add all the pecorino, which is, again, I said it's sheep cheese, has a little more saltiness, a little more bright sharpness to it. Going to put that in. Going to put in half the parsley and half of the Parmesan cheese. Just give it a good stir so it all melts together. It looks delicious. Like I said, if it looks a little too thick, add a little more stock or water. Just gonna add a little more there. Now I took out the roasted mushrooms. They're a little crispy, they're chewy in the middle. I'm going to dish this up. I'm going to finish dishing it up. I'm going to try it first. Now the cheese has a lot of salt, but it still needs a little pinch more. A little more salt, a little pepper. Stir that in. And then dish up. Now again, this will do 6 people as a side dish, 4 people as an entree. You can have it with roasted chicken. You have it classically, it's with osso buco, braised veal shanks, salmon. It's good with salmon. And all those go really well with, again, the Pinot Noir. This is how you would present it. We found that one more ingredient. You have some really high quality extra virgin olive oil. You give a little drizzle of that on it, and it brings the whole plate together. It brings out the richness of the wine and the fruitiness of the wine, and this is a wonderful finishing touch that you can pass around at the table. We're going to give it a little try. We're going to taste the wine first, have a bite of that, and go back to the wine and see how perfectly paired it is.
It looks delicious.
I hope you love it.
Mushrooms.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely wine. Can't beat that.
Velvety, like you said.
Uh-huh. The lemon and the herbs and the mushrooms. It really kicks it up a notch. Like I said, classic risotto. You can't do anything wrong with it, but you can really, this is the springtime version that goes with our wine.
The lemon really mixes well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. And like I said, if you have someone that doesn't drink red wine, a bottle of our Chardonnay would be fine, or you could do both. Works out perfect. Well, I hope you enjoyed visiting us while I'm doing the springtime risotto with roasted mushrooms. It'll be on our website, the recipes. It's great for company. It's great on a springtime day. Like I said, you can do it for lunch, you can do it for dinner, you can do it as an entree. And I hope you come visit us next time. Here's to the good life. Cheers.